we do have a Steam Deck here.
Ta-da!
There you go. So I wanted to ask you about this. Resident gamer, you've probably put the most gaming hours. Actually, I don't know. Out of anyone
David
here?
does play a lot, but I'm also older than him, so I win.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about the Steam Deck.
Okay.
So just for those who haven't seen, because I've actually gotten a lot of questions from people who see this and are like, what is it and should I get it?
Yeah.
Picture a Nintendo Switch, 1.5 times the size, all black, tons of extra custom controls, quad panel pads on the back, like touch pads on the front, ABXY buttons. It's made by Valve. It's got a full-on OS and it runs Steam and can play games in your Steam library. That is a Steam Deck.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Attachable to like Joy-Cons, but like this is strictly handheld. This is I shouldn't say that. You can hook this up.
You can
with a deck that is not out yet.
You
I
can
believe.
Right, and then you could play with like a mouse and keyboard if you really wanted to.
Yeah,
but this is a portable gaming console.
Yeah, so this is like really trying to actually hit. We all know the Switch and Nintendo is genius. I love it, but Nintendo games are generally a little like lower key. Graphics aren't as intense. It's more like fun party stuff, games like that, Mario Kart, Mario Party, you know,
bright and colorful.
Exactly, yeah. This is trying to bring like actual PC games handheld, which is obviously much harder.
It's a challenge. So how do you feel about the concept in general of like, there's some games in your Steam library. Do you ever desire to play those games away from your mouse and keyboard at all?
So right now, I'm a person who plays one game pretty much at a time, and I get really into that. Right now, that game is not on Steam, and it's a game that is it's called Valorant. It's a tactical shooter. It's like very intense with precision of your mouse, so it would be impossible to play on a controller. So not really, but there are games out there. Rocket League is the main thing I think of when I think Steam Deck. Because Rocket League works amazing on a controller, best on a controller. All the pros are playing on a controller. And this would work so well for that. And that is on Steam. And I've downloaded it. And it's awesome.
It's been my best Steam Deck experience for sure.
Yes. And that's a very interesting point you put up because there are a lot of reviews out. We have not gotten a lot of time to play with this yet. This is kind of like a first impressions to us. We both set it up. The setup process was a little tricky. I think it was mostly our internet that was kind of being a problem.
Yeah.
In the setup process, I was having some issues with the touchscreen. I don't think they were too crazy. Typing every once in a while didn't feel great. The overall build quality of this, I think, is solid. It's light, and I think I like that it's light versus if it was like super solid feeling, because if you're going to hold this in your hands, it's going to get tiring.
Right.
I don't like these D-pads at all. They're kind of just big squares under the analog sticks.
Oh, the touch pads.
The joysticks.
Yeah.
Are they touchpads?
They
both. Click.
They click, but you can also use them as moving a mouse and cursor around.
I guess that's in games, because in the regular Steam library, they do not do that. They do work as D-pads, but the click on them feels terrible.
Yeah. So I think this is the biggest challenge for the Steam Deck, which is what you said at the beginning, which is the games you play.
Yeah.
If you play a bunch of games that work best with a mouse and keyboard, your challenge is going to be translating that mouse and keyboard control experience to some of the buttons and surfaces on the Steam Deck. And if you can do that, which you do have lots of custom controls and you can map things and sort of get a similar experience, it won't be as precise probably, but you can do stuff with the mapping, then you can play that mouse and keyboard game on the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
But it will never be as good as the mouse and keyboard.
No, and I guess if you're mobile gaming, you're kind of okay with that a lot of the time.
Right.
One thing I noticed a lot of reviewers saying, and since we had a Steam library and we've only tested some we haven't gone through that yet, but the curated list for Steam Deck specific games was not great. And I still think they added it and it's still not too good, which is a problem if you're buying the Steam Deck and you're not on a PC, because the price on $400, right?
Yeah, something like that.
I think that's a crazy good price.
Pretty good price.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
There are going to be people who buy this that are using Steam for their first time because of this. And they're going to have a hard time downloading games or finding games that work correctly for it or work well on it or
Right.
optimized for it.
Okay, so this I think is the one other thing that's come up a lot about the Steam Deck. As I've been using it, it's been getting constant software updates,
Yeah.
like major software updates, like not just bug fixes, but like adding features and like the ability to play certain games and map certain things. They've been basically building the software of this thing in the background as we're using it and reviewing it. I think if you were to buy one right now, today, it would still feel pretty early. And there's a lot of games that aren't really well optimized. There's not a lot of games that are as good as Rocket League on this thing. And I think if you were to wait like 6 months and get a feel for the landscape and see how things pan out, you can get a better idea if the games you want to play will work well on this. I mean, they'll work, but will they work well is the question.
Yeah, and they do have something which I'm sure they'll build into their search eventually, where if you're in your existing Steam Deck or your existing Steam library and you install a game, it'll kind of bring up this pop-up of like what works well with Steam Deck, what doesn't work well with Steam Deck, or just what's completely just not compatible.
Doesn't work at all.
And I found that being really interesting with some things. Rocket League, which is like green checks down the whole thing.
Yep.
CSGO, I'm trying to load it right now because I feel like this is going to be basically impossible to play. It does work. I'm on here. It looks choppy and playing with a controller would be almost impossible. But then I was looking at a game like Fall Guys, which I have on Steam. Feels perfect for a Steam Deck. The issue arises is that a lot of these multiplayer games have anti-cheat third-party software that isn't going to be compatible with this. And that is one of them.
So I heard, so that's, can you explain that? So there's games that are at a certain level of competitiveness.
Yeah, wait, look, this is gyro?
Yeah.
Gyroscopic?
That's solid control.
That sounds crazy.
Not precise.
Just in the middle of us talking, I loaded up CSGO and it's gyroscopic. Oh, interesting. Okay. So if I move the controller, that's actually an interesting way to try and do this. So left analog stick is walk. Right analog stick kind of snaps you about 90 degrees, left, right. Okay. And then slightly moving the entire Steam Deck is what gives you the precision.
It's a good thing it's lightweight.
I mean, you're never going to actually be able to play this, but it feels better than, and I just died, and the frame rate's terrible. But yeah, CSGO tactical shooters are just not going to be something that's going to do that. But I think going back to what I was saying before, a game like Fall Guys, like I would kill to play.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the anti-cheat.
What is anti-cheat? There's certain games that are competitive enough where the developers have gone, all right, we want to add anti-cheat into our game to prevent people from like hacking and getting super good. So they add that, and that anti-cheat software is only compatible with certain
It's a third-party software that's running in the background after you launch the game to basically make sure you're not running any programs that are known for cheating. So Fall Guys specifically, there were ones where pretty much like you remember Fall Guys, you just like, it's a bunch of maps. It's basically a race to the end and a bunch of different obstacles. People could just like jump in the air and fly over everybody. And there's like a bunch of different cheats. It sounds really stupid for a game like Fall Guys because it doesn't feel that competitive, but it unfortunately was.
Just keeps it fun for everyone when that's not happening everywhere.
Yeah, but the problem with that is now that since people were cheating, they have to add this software, which is not compatible. I believe if I go and try and do it on here, it just says that this game's anti-cheat is not configured to support Steam Deck and still lets me install. But I can just assume that it's not going to let me play after that.
Yeah. So it sounds like a lot of these games, anti-cheat software only works with like Windows or Linux and won't let you play if you're not using one of those OSs.
So far, at least. I guess it will probably be up to the developers to be able to find some solution for that with Steam Deck if it's something that will be that they think will do well on it. But I'm not totally sure how they're going to approach that. Fall Guys probably not being the best example now because it's much less popular than it used to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think there are games on here. I think there's a lot of indie games, side scrollers, like stuff like that people do really like. Cuphead, all sorts of games like that. People will love to play. I would love to play it on this because the screen looks great. The controls, besides the touchpads that I don't love, all feel great. Triggers, lots of customizable buttons.
Yeah.
You have noticed, and we need to test this more, the charging speeds have been pretty rough.
Yeah, I want to try a couple other chargers because I plugged in a 65 watt OnePlus charger just to the USB Type-C port at the top, and it charged like 50% in 8 hours or something, which was obviously not
That's
working
terrible,
correctly.
yeah.
So I need to see if that's just the charger. Should I use the first party one only? Should I update the software and will it fix itself? I don't know yet. But to me, the most interesting part about the Steam Deck actually is who is it for? Because number one, I always find it a challenge to review things that I know that I'm specifically not in the target demographic for. And when I think of the Steam Deck, I think of someone who wouldn't also have a Nintendo Switch. So a Switch is someone who's like a casual gamer who's just, I mean, the Switch killed. It had great sales. Like people love that thing on planes. They love that like under their TV, casual games all the time. I think of the Steam Deck as someone who specifically doesn't want the Switch, but does want to play some of those other games on the go.
That's how I do think it could convert Switch users, because I think there are a lot of Switch users who play more intense games at home, but that aren't available mobile. So the Switch, they're just playing a different style of game. Not to say there aren't some competitive games on Switch or whatever, but in general, like I play Valorant, but when we go on a plane, I'm going to bring my Switch and I'm just going to play Mario Kart for like 8 hours on the plane.
If you had a Steam Deck,
I'd rather play Rocket League.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I mean, that's online, but still there are other games out there that I think I would rather play on this than I would on that. And I do think there will be people converting. And then if I could bring this, set it up with a mouse and keyboard in my hotel room and play Valorant, I know that couldn't be it, or CSGO or something like that. That sounds kind of awesome.
Yeah, because then at that point, you don't also bring a gaming laptop. Yeah. You just bring the Steam Deck and maybe a couple extra little accessories.
Yeah.
Okay.
$400 is a killer price.
That's true. Exactly. You're not going to get a gaming laptop for $400. No. So there you go.
You're not going to get a Chromebook.
That's a sad fact. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm going to keep testing this thing out. I'm going to play a bunch of different games like I suggested in the YouTube short. Tell me what games I should play specifically on it, because I've played Rocket League and I like it a lot. I'm going to try some other stuff.
That's a good point.
Yeah, working on the review.
Game suggestions for sure. I know there's 10,000 like indie games out there on Steam that are still like fun stuff, like Cuphead, that we should play, because get out of the comfort zone a little bit to do this, because this review is just going to be out of the comfort zone for sure.
Exactly. Hey, thanks for watching this Waveform clip. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on this channel, not only so you don't miss clips, but so that also a drone will fly out the back of your computer and get a cool, sick POV shot of you hitting the subscribe button.
And if you don't hit the subscribe button, TikTok might take over with its new 10-minute stuff. And we really don't want to have to do like part 1 through 10 of the Waveform podcast on 10-minute TikTok.
Wouldn't want to have to do this in vertical.
You don't want to see me in vertical. I look terrible enough in landscape.
Yeah. So subscribe to keep this podcast horizontal.
Exactly.
That's actually way better. Keep this
The button's horizontal, keep it horizontal.
Perfect.